Press record now. Hi, Shiho. Hi. Hi there. Okay, tell me what's going on. Okay, for and shoulder. Okay, we won't be rolling over the toes, so that would be good. And then, was it a shoulder surgery? Oh, yeah, no, okay.
Redone,
Okay,
but it's been 6 weeks.
okay, yeah, so, with we're gonna be doing some heart openers today, so you'll just, I would focus more on the breath aspect of things and just, nice and gentle. And you've been practicing before this, or is this,
No.
okay, this is your
First
trial
time
period? Yeah, so just, I would say even up here, 10, 20%, just kind of breathe and move, okay? All right, where are we? It's noon. And I press record. Thank you for joining me. Today, Kyla is gonna be taking over this class, for those of you who didn't get the email, next week. And she will be doing the hybrid. So that'll be great. And Kyla's awesome. She's had a lot of different kinds of training, and I've only heard great things, and she's a very sweet person. And so, I'm sorry?
Is that the same person?
No, that's Brittany and
Oh.
Kyla. Yeah. It's a lot of names. And then, but I will still be doing Mondays. And so there's that. And so I've been thinking about just embodiment, right? Being in our human body, and the general human experience sometimes, as we know, can be challenging, and for various reasons. And one of the things I felt so fortunate about in my life is that I have this practice, this knowledge of breath and movement and how helpful it can be. And whether, sometimes you have an injury, just moving and, just like this, and breathing can be helpful, or if there's some stuff going on another level in life, when we step into our bodies and we're just moving and breathing, we can have perspective on just situation, and even for a time just being present within our own body, we can have a momentary just sort of like, not forgetfulness, but the something can be pushed to the side for a little bit, which we actually do need, right? If we always had everything in the forefront of our mind, would be sort of unpleasant. And there's a state in Tantra, which is the yoga philosophy we study here, is this idea of body as the oblation, our body is the offering. And so I think of this too, when things get intense, that, every practice, every movement, every breath is just an offering out into the world. And that, for me, offering is a release, right? And it helps. So, and we all know this, we've done the studies, like when you serve, right, in some way or another, you feel better than when you're just doing things for yourself, right? And so just in that way of offering up our practice. And go ahead and place your hands into your heart center. And if you have something that you want to offer your practice into today, you can. And sometimes even just thinking of it's a fire ceremony in sort of Indian culture called the Homa ceremony. And it's about just throwing whatever you don't need into the fire and burning it away, right? And so you can even just think of offering whatever you've got inside that you would like to sort of release from you, just throwing it into the fire. It's a really beautiful way to do things. And we'll do one Om together in healing. Your hands in the shoes. That's like the best Om in person. It's sweep it back for some reason. Okay. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna you guys, and since you can walk and sit at the bolster, you can get on the floor. We just have these fancy bolsters, so I'm kind of using them. So the first option, a lot of you know this, and I offer this one a lot, is the Mutasana, like so. And then you could place a bolster underneath your hips. If when you do this, everything's fine. If you notice, like if you wake up and your back's kind of sore, and then I don't get on the bolster like I just did. For some reason, I've got like this kind of dyslexia where I do it backwards. But anyway, then you test it out here, and if it's like, ooh, a little pinchy, that's just, you need maybe a little more time to go in this direction, and you go a little bit lower onto the floor, a blanket or something, and then you could grab onto your right knee and left toes point up in the air, and just breathe right into your left hip area, the front of your left hip. On your exhale, draw the outer edge of your right hip down towards the front of the room. If that means that your knee is a little further away from your chest, that's fine. It's not really how high the knee can get. It's more about sort of, if you think about it, this pose, one way we're lengthening, extending through the hip flexor on the left, and on the right, you're flexing. It's a deep flexion. So there's actually kind of a lot going on here. You can relax your right foot, and that foot relaxation on the right side can allow the hip crease to kind of let go a little bit. Yeah. And then just switch sides. Same thing, second side. Right toes pointing up in the air. That foot is flexed, but the left foot is relaxed. Yeah, and even just that little brain thing, like, okay, relax one foot or the other, right? And then just breathe into the front of your right hip, noticing the deep flexion on the left. Any pinchiness in the left hip crease, that's definitely just not a stretch, and you move your knee a little further away from you. Over time, we actually kind of want a nice feeling when we get into that deep flexion, if available. And then you're going to release that both legs long. If that's too much, just bend your knees, feet on the floor. We won't be here forever, but just an invitation here to open through the front of the hip creases. And when it comes to, this idea of just sort of, letting go or whatever, coming into ourselves in a more, into the body, the hip flexors then being able to kind of release and relax is a very significant part of us being able to let go. So we have our mental, energetic selves, but our body also is tied into that, right? So if you have really tight hip flexors, in general, you're not going to be able to totally relax on other parts of yourself. It's just everything's tied in. And then on your next exhale, bend your knees, place your feet onto the earth, and then you can lift your hips up, take the bolster out, and you can do a few windshield wipers here, just going from side to side. You can have your feet a little bit wider. You can go slow with the windshield wipers. You can go faster, and just tuning in to what works for you in your body, just feeling if the hips feel easeful, or if you kind of get some kind of stops along the way, which is fairly normal. Just noticing for you. And then back through center, you're gonna cross your right ankle above your left knee. Your feet will be hip distance apart. And you're welcome to grab behind your left thigh with both hands, or at the top of your left shin for 4 square stretch. Suphi Randrasana is the fancy name. And you can even here relax your left foot. I know that's not always traditional, but I find that helps the left hip crease release and breathe. And Michael, if you want, you could even place a block or the bolster underneath your head so you can relax your head. Yeah, and that's always an option for that one. It's not, yeah. Does that feel better? Mm-hmm. Good. Just a couple breaths here. I like to think of pressing, even though you're drawing your legs in, pressing the right thigh out towards this side of towards the top of your mat, we'll say. And then place that foot down, pause there. And let's take both the left shin over to the left, right knee, or knees over to your right. So twisting to your right. Could have probably just said that, but. And then if you need the bolster or block underneath your right knee, you could take that here. Yeah, like that. And this is, again, a stretch into the front hip flexor. Some people feel this on the left or on the right side. Couple breaths here. Some of you feel this stretch in your back. Of course, if you feel like a little ooh, then you need to come out of it a little bit so you can have that smooth breath. And then exhale back through center, and then cross left over right. Grab on, draw it in, and we know you might have a little difference between sides here. That's fine. You flex your left ankle and you can relax your right. And just breathe. And sometimes I find these kind of poses, like hip flexors on the hip stretches on the floor, that and then just them in themselves can allow me to just kind of like, okay, here we go. I can chill out a little bit just by simply creating this shape, paying attention to that, and then having, some nice smooth breath. And then release that and twist to your left. You can walk your right foot over to the right. And if you need support underneath your left knee, please take it. And Shannon, you'll just want to drop your elbows down to shoulder height. Yeah, good. You rest here. Just notice where the breath goes in the body. And then I invite you to bring it into your right lung. To fill out, it can kind of help fill out that area on that side, since that right side of your back doesn't have the support of the floor. The breath can act as if it's a support, not even as if, but it is. And then on your next exhale, come back up through center. Nice, both feet on the floor, knees bent. And you're gonna roll onto your right side and press up. From here, we'll have, I think, Michael, I did think you were on a block for this one. We're gonna come into this position here. And some of you might be on a block, and you could even use the big guy block or a bolster. And what you want underneath your left sitting bone is at the most about this much space underneath the sitting bone. If you have more than that, then you're gonna wanna sit on something on your right hip, underneath your right hip, okay? You're good there, yeah. Okay, then from there, we're gonna take right hand out to the right, bend into the left, or into the right elbow a little bit, and take your left hand behind your head. Inhale, lengthen, and then on your exhale, you're gonna just lean over to your right, and you could even press down with your right hand and isometrically forward, and you'll get kind of this like traction of the right side body leaning deeper over to the left, and then press your head into your hands. And then exhale, come up, and then we'll take left hand to outer left shin if available. Elbow comes up, inhale, and then exhale. You can have a little bend into the left elbow here, and you'll feel, because your hip's more anchored on the side, you may feel, ooh, yeah, a little bit more into the hip perhaps, side body. And then exhale back, and we're just gonna do a couple where we go from side to side here. So as you come through center, you exhale, inhale, reach over, exhale, and inhale, reach over. So just go at your own breath pace so you can move with the breath. And this is a way to, I feel this more in my hips, but it's also a way to free up the rib cage area. And if our rib cage is locked, when we get into the shoulder openers, you're not going to have much luck. And then we'll do one more round over to the left. Now you're going to take your hand over to the right, and then we're going to twist. So this hip will come up. and fingertips into the floor. That's it. Okay. Now, on your next inhale, you're gonna lift through your chest. And then on your exhale, just round in your upper back. And then on your inhale, think of snaking front body up as you widen through the collarbones. And on exhale, just expand through your upper back. So keeping this somewhat isolated in the movement of the thoracic spine. And it's an inhale for today. Inhale, lengthen, and exhale. And you can play with the breath, but this is just sort of our instinctual yoga way of doing things. Two more here. And then last round of breath. And then we'll come through center. You can place your hands behind you. Take your time to switch your legs around. And then we'll have left hand to the side. Bend into your left elbow a little bit. Pull your left shoulder back. Inhale. Right elbow comes up. And then you can lean. And if you press your left hand down and forward, you get sort of this like little purchase. And the right rib kind of moves you deeper over to the, or sorry, your left rib leads you deeper over to the right. Good. And breathe here. I'm pulling your left shoulder back. Yeah. And while you're here, notice if the, what'll tend to happen in these kinds of positions is that the ribs kind of pooch forward. And then what we want to work on here, and actually I have tape on, literally tape on my body to not help that, help that not happen. But you're going to draw your ribs back. I was so excited when my PT was like, how do you feel about tape? And I was like, I love it. Oh, let's tape me out. I was going to say, you can tape me out. I know, it's so good. And then go the other way. And here, since your hip is more locked down, you may feel even, a different quality of stretch for sure. And you could think of, I've been thinking of drawing, it's the xiphoid process, sort of right where the ribs meet in the front. Think of drawing that underneath your heart. And that helps me soften into the engagement of drawing ribs back into my body, as opposed to, sometimes when we think of that, we can harden. So it's kind of finding a sweet spot with that, where you're engaged but not tense. And then exhale through center, and we'll go from side to side a couple times. Exhale through center, reach it over in your inhale and go back and forth here. And we'll go one more time on the right side. And then land back on the left, fingertips into the floor. The right hip can lift up. And so here, Michael, I would say, oh, you want to be on the block on your left side. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. So sit under the, and then here, inhale, lift through your front body, lift your chest, widen your collarbones, and then on the exhale, see if you can just kind of isolate the expansion of the upper back more into that we're not rounding the low back. So things will move. You don't want to, not be able to have anything else move and go back and forth here, but you don't want to start to kind of necessarily have a big amount of flexion in your low back here. Back and forth. Good. Hip cramp a little bit there? Yeah. Yeah. And you could even, do something like this. You're kind of, yeah, good. And then one more round of breath. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, expand into the upper back. And then undo that. From here, we're going to do one more kind of strange thing. You're going to come on to
your forearm. So this is like Sphinx, right? Maybe we'll just do a Sphinx since we're here. Where you isometrically, in this one, let's not engage into the glutes and hips unless it feels like you need to, okay? So you just lengthen your isometrically, pull your forearms back, and you'll feel your body lengthen, and you may notice, oh, I do, like, I got a little more purchase than sometimes I do in this, because we just did all that movement, right? We're basically kind of doing the same thing as that last one. Then, on your next exhale, you're gonna pull your belly back towards your spine, instead of, so the belly's not dropping, it's pulling up. And then you're gonna lift up your right foot. Okay. What tends to happen is here's the right hip is lifted up. See if you best you can press it down, and then flex your foot, and we're gonna flex, flex, and point. And this is just a way to kind of lengthen through the quads and the hip flexor with some movement and some rhythm. And so the rhythm is a way to kind of talk to your nervous system. It's like, you know, dance is so cool, right? It's more than just moving around and looking cool. When you dance, there's something that's happening on the inside. Well, some of us look cool, some of us don't, whatever, but you know what I mean, feeling cool, even if you don't look cool, whatever. But there's more to it, right? There's this whole discussion going on in the nervous system when we have rhythm and repetitive movement. I don't really know all of understand the conversations, but they are happening, okay? One more like that, flex, flex, point, and then lower down. And then just feel the difference. You can feel how your right hip is more into the floor. So it did something, right? Does everybody feel a little difference there? Good, okay. Then second side bend, and then flex, flex, point. And this is just FYI, some Pilates that I'm learning about. And so I'm just kind of incorporating some of it in that I like, that I have found helpful. And just, it's good to, especially if you've been practicing something for a long time, it's good to kind of like mix it up, right? Just have some different kinds of movements, introduction of different ways of thinking about movement, creating different pathways, and just discoveries of, I find this kind of more like a foam roller opening, like a release more than like your typical quad stretch, which has is really nice as a prep for some quad stretching. And let's do one more here, release, and then lower to, oh yeah, so much more even. You feel that between the sides? It's so good. I love it. Okay. Then we'll plant hands down, and let's just do a small cobra. If your shoulders don't have space in regular cobra, you could do more of a spider finger. Here, let's press hips down, pull low belly in, and we're just gonna kind of come partially up, and you can think of crawling your front body long, and then lifting up, just sort of getting into the thoracic spine, the upper thoracic spine more than down into the mid and lower back. And then lower down, and then downward facing dog. Reaching your hips to the sky. If downward dog doesn't work for you today, you know, you can do a force or child's pose or whatever. In this downward dog, bend your knees. You can get kind of crazy and wild if you want. Move, swirling your hips around because we were on the floor for a while there. Yeah. Good. Inner edges of your hands press into the mat to help secure your shoulders a little bit more. And then on your next exhale, you're going to draw your right leg through for a lunge. Bring your back knee down to the floor. And you're going to walk your right foot out to the right edge of your mat, toes turn out. And a couple options. One is here to get in, but we know the hip can come down, but we don't collapse. So the low back stays nice and supported. And then you can grab onto your left foot if that's in your wheelhouse. If not, you're just going to do that first version. Inhale, we've explored the space in the torso, reach long, pull both shoulders back, and then you draw your left side body towards your inner right thigh. You can be lower down than that if you want to get, you know, we are working the quads here, so, you know, some into the twist, but more into the quad. Yeah, good. And then you could even, Michael, have your right hand on your right hip, elbow bent, and that can kind of help open things up a little bit. Yeah. Good, and then Meg, if you can bring your hip down more, pulling your low belly in. Just wanna make sure that you're not dropping your femur bone, yeah, like that. So there's a trick of like, you can go deep, you just wanna be mindful of your upper left thigh, not clunking more forward in the hip socket is really what we're trying to avoid. Oh, okay, okay. I didn't know if you were like, yeah, sometimes people listen so well that I'm like, no, you can go more. You can go more. I'm just like, you know, yeah, so, and then exhale, release that. Let's step back to a plank if in your wheelhouse today. And here, we're gonna breathe, and if you need to bring your knees down, that's fine. Breathe into your lungs, so you start to feel, so it's kind of like sailing season. I asked the question is, was it like sailing season? And my friend was like, well, yeah, it's summer. So anyway, breathe into the backs of your lungs here. You can feel how like it's winds, the wind coming into sails, and how that wind really powers the boat. You can feel how that sort of uplifts you here and supports you, sailing above the ground. And just notice that. So instead of using so much muscle, we can use our breath to really support us here. And then on your exhale, if you need to, you can bring your knees down, come all the way down to the floor, Chaturanga Dandasana. And press your hips down here, regular cobra, spider finger, upward dog, whatever kind of thing works for you in your body today. Think of that curling up in the front body, outer shoulder blades drawing together, and the upper back is really staying there, really, changing shape. And then might go soften in the face, soften your shoulders, pretend you're having a good time. There you go. And then flip your toes downward facing dog. I saw it. Yeah. Nice work. And think of pressing your elbows upward more towards the sky. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's a little more supported. Then on your next exhale, draw your left leg through for a lunge. Bring your right knee down to the floor. Foot goes wide, turn the toes out. And then you're welcome to grab onto your back foot with your left hand if available, don't if it's not. And then as you come in, even as your hips are coming forward, your upper right thigh is working towards the back of the room. So you're keeping the thigh bone in the sort of where it wants to go into the hip socket. And then once you're there, your right shoulder gently draws back towards the back of the room. Good. Yeah. A few breaths here. And just tune in if there's somewhere where you feel there's some tension. Sometimes just hugging your legs in more can help release some inner tension, just some muscle energy. So then infuse yourself with a greater amount of breath. Just experiment, right? How am I going to feel how can I feel more chill? How can I make like a good feeling offering? And then exhale, plant your hand down, step back to the plank again. You can always bring your knees down, pause in the plank and really just breathing into the backs of your lungs here and feel what that, yeah, woo. It kind of reminds me more of foiling, right? I don't know, hydrofoiling or whatever it is on the river they do. Where you sort of float above the water. I've seen it, it's pretty cool. Then lower down on your exhale. And then inhale, your version of this pose, Sphinx, Cobra, Upward Dog, Downward Dog. I would say, Michael, that's the perfect spot for you. And then just see if you can press the inner edges of your hands down. If you can't, you can turn your hands out a little bit to get that. Yeah, that'll give you a little more freedom in the shoulders also. Nice. And then, yeah, I like that smile. And then lower down, downward facing dog. Just tuning in again to your dog. We've been here a bunch before, right? And there's something to repetition. We know that, right? So that coming home within the pose, breathing. And then on your next exhale, bend your knees, bring your feet up to your hands, come to the top of your mat. If in this forward bend, you want to bend your knees, I like to have the straight leg thing, but especially in this first one, it's like, it's okay to bend. And then on your next inhale, come all the way up to stand. And exhale. Come into a sort of fun way I've been doing lately, which is feet spur. And in this version of it, you have your arms straight up in the air and your torso's over your hips, as opposed to this one, where it's just a different one. And then you're gonna hug your feet in, ankles in, hips in, and then breathe into the backs of your lungs here. And you may even feel a little similar support that you did in the plank pose. On your next inhale, reach your left leg back for a lunge, coming into regular old high lunge. Nothing fancy today with this first one. Yeah, nice, good. Yeah, back of your heel is lifted. So you squeeze from ankles to hips in, inhale, reach long through side bodies, reach up through front and back bodies, stretch through your fingertips. And then exhale, we'll make our way back to the Utkatasana, top of the mat. So the legs come together, knees come together, torso over the hips, breathe into the backs of your sails here. And then on your next inhale, right leg goes back for your lunge. Good. And then hug in, ankles to hips, stretch long, reach, and think of hugging your upper arm bones in and your forearms away. So the arm bones go in opposite directions here. It's really crazy, but it works. Good, and you're doing great, Shanna. I'm just gonna tell your body.
Yeah.
You,
I know I've got
Okay.
first.
okay, so if you press here, there you go. And does that feel okay there? Okay, good. Yeah, that's a little straight, good. And then exhale, step forward. That's it. This time on your next inhale, left leg goes back. You got it. And let's draw the left hand down the back and grab onto your elbow. Inhale, lengthen, and then you just kind of see how it goes. And you may notice this line all the way up from your quad through your elbow on the left. Yeah, and Jennifer, I'd say just a little shorter in your stance will help. Yeah. So when we transition, it's like a party trick from the Utkatasana to lunge. We've been playing it a lot. And then arms back up, and then exhale back to Utkatasana, playing some just sort of functional, like fun balance dynamicness. And then on your next inhale, right leg back. As you're ready, bend the elbow. All of this is balancing, right? And then breathe here. Couple breaths. And then on your next exhale, step forward. Nice. You bring back to Utkatasana. Exhale, draw your arms down. Let me just look at what I have here. Oh, I think that's what I mean. Oh, I hate it when I can't read my own writing. Okay, I'm just moving on. 0-1. So left foot forward, right foot back. And we're gonna keep right hand on hip and left arm up. So this should feel kind of somewhat free compared to what we just did. Reach your left thigh back and anchor it back, and then stretch through the top arm. And this is kind of simple, but just to feel tuning into the breath between sides. So we're extending more through the left. So you may notice there's a more sort of free expression of the breath moving through the left side of your body and a little more contained on the right. And then exhale, step forward. And just switch sides, left. Did the wrong side. It might have been me, cool. Yeah, I think it was me. So, and then here, Jennifer, it's okay, you're gonna turn your back toes in more so that the heel only, it's kind of more like that. Yeah, if that feels, yeah, there you go. That's it. So now everybody's on the right side. Cool, we'll do that. I'm sure it was me, since you all are uniform in that. Breathing more through your left side body here, or you don't have to breathe more into it. You'll feel the breath more fully moving into it because the arm is up. So sorry if you were confused on that last side when I was talking about that. You felt the exact opposite. And then on your next exhale, step forward. Good. All right, so now we'll just do it that way. On your next inhale, you're gonna take your right leg back. And this time, your hand will come up and you're going to inhale, lengthen, and then circle your arm around to perhaps touch the thigh. And then face your chest forward and breathe into the space. We're just playing around really with breath. Breathe below the shoulder blades here. So that's where you're getting all this bend, right? And so breathe into there and just see what happens. Just, we're just playing around really. There's nothing to like do right or wrong here. And then you could take the other arm up. Good. Bending into the front knee. That's it. And then on your next step forward, other. Okay, so inhale, the left arm comes up and back around. Chi-ho, we know whatever you're doing is great. And then the right arm can come up, breathing into this strip. And it's just sort of like what I notice is this can get kind of bogged down in there. And so when you breathe into that, you can just invite a little more space, and that gives the whole sort of lower back area some more space, is what I was theorizing on. And then Michael, bring your knee more forward, bring your top of your torso more towards me, and think just length. You might have to crawl your left hand up your leg towards your glute a little bit more. There you go, and then lift your chest. There you go, to feel a little more space in there. Yeah, good. And then on your next exhale, step forward. Okay, so standing firmly into your left foot. We did this on Monday. You're just gonna grab onto your right knee. Yeah, good. Lift through your chest. And then with as much, little movement as possible. Just good. And this takes practice, right? So more movement, the more you practice it, it's just, and then you're standing like just a little bit, that's straight. Yeah, good. And then release that. And then we're going to do that one more time. Left toes point straight ahead. This time we'll grab on behind. Perfect. And notice if you kind of do a little dippy do here. You want your hips straight up and down. And then we work toward straighten, and we'll just do this a couple times. You don't have to get straight, right? It's kind of like that kick thing. Let's do that. Let's just try it out. So kick, point. Kick, point. Kick, and flexing on the kick, and then pointing. Oh, that's weird. And then release that. And just trying things out. Second side, right toes point straight ahead, grab on. We just get that on board, right? And so if you're kind of like, okay, this is kind of a lot, just stay there. Or you could stay here, or kick, point. Kick, point. Kick, point.
Don't worry, Jennifer, I do this for a living. One more. And then release that down. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so next we're gonna take is Parshvottanasana. So you're gonna stand, you're gonna come into the right foot back, left foot forward again. And it's basically warrior one with a straight leg and different upper body things happening. And so today we're not gonna come all the way into the fold. You're gonna either, you're in that position, grab on behind like this, like this, like this, or I would kind of be mindful of this one if you've had recent surgeries, etc. Hands behind your back. And then we'll inhale, think of this as a cobra before anything else. So Cobra Pose, lifting upward towards the sky, and then reach from your left hip into your right hip into your right heel. And then maybe you'll get a little more purchase. So this is sort of a standing cobra, if you think about it. And then you're gonna keep that extension going as you come forward. You only goes forward as you can keep your shoulders from rounding down. So it might be a little bit of a bummer, but just know that you're in a great spot for opening up. That's it. And you gotta work your legs kind of a lot here. And then Meg, you're gonna bend into that back knee. Yeah, like that. Good. So, oh, you lost it again. Good. There it is. So it's really hard. I think maybe what's happening is because you want to do that good thing of like anchoring the thigh.
Yeah.
But the knee is moving more than the upper thigh. Okay. So for you, I would just focus more on the knee because that's kind of first priority. Yeah, right. Yeah. And then inhale, come up and step forward. Yeah, because that will build the quad. Yeah, because when you're far back, you can't really do. Yeah. And then second, right foot forward, left leg back, and you find your spot with your arms. And this side, just for fun, tip forward, and here, Meg, you can bend and I know it's on the other side, but you bend the back knee, and then anchor from your hip into the leg. So you feel with the little torso flexion, you get a nice anchor, and then come back up, and then cobra in the upper body here, Cobra Pose. So in Cobra, we're not really trying to, it's more about this upper back movement, offering your heart up to the sky here. And then we come forward, and you just go to where you can keep your shoulders lifted. There you go. Yeah. That's it. 2 more breaths. 1 and 2. And then undo your arms and step forward. Good. Okay. So we're gonna come down to the floor onto our stomachs. And let's do regular Shavasana. So arms down like this, palms down. Then on your inhale, and as you inhale, think of inflating through the backs of the lungs again. So inhale, lift up, and then you can take your feet up off the floor. And think of inhale, breathing into the backs of the lungs. Exhale, pull belly back to spine. Inhale, breathe into the backs of the lungs. Exhale, belly back to spine. And you may find, oh wow, I'm really cruising here. On the breath, we're riding on the breath. And then lower down. That was probably the easiest. Right, using our breath. And from here, then actually we're going to do the same thing, but you're going to lift your hands up. Okay. So inhale, inflate through the backs of the lungs to come up. You can lift your legs up, and then you can lift your arms up. Staying there, same thing. Inflate into the backs of the lungs.
Exhale, pull belly back to the spine. Inflate into the lungs. Exhale, belly back to spine. One more. Inflate into the backs of the lungs. Oh, nice, Michael. Good. Exhale, lower down. Really nice. Just notice how you feel when you guys, it's like you're literally supporting yourself with your breath, right? It feels really good. Then next one we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna clasp hands behind our back with option to straighten the arms, but not necessary. So press your hips down, inhale, lift up, breathing into the upper back as you come up. Elbows can be straight or bent here. You got it. And I would say, Michael, just walk your hands a tiny bit up, tiny bend, and then lift your shoulders. That's it. Good choice, Jennifer. Good. And you may notice we're, closing the upper back off that, oh, it's a little different. Maybe breathe more into the front of the chest. See what that does. Just kind of experience. Oh yeah, that drew you way down. Yeah, then breathe back into the lungs, kind of the back of the lungs. Fine. And then exhale, lower down. So that was cool, Sharon. I could totally see you you breathed in the front and you kind of tilted forward, right? And then you breathed back into the back of the lungs and it picked you up again. I wish you could have seen it, Shio. It's very exciting. Okay, then from there, we're gonna come up and we're gonna get our blocks. Even if you are somebody that, oh, you know what, no. All right, we'll just have your blocks nearby. We're gonna do this a couple times. Right foot forward. Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple options here. And the first one is to just place your hands on your chest and lift the skin of your chest up. And there's a lot that can get done in there. Just keep in mind, you're not pushing yourself back, you're lifting yourself up. The next option, and this just kind of depends on your thumbs. During allergy season, this thumb is a little inflamed. You could place your thumbs into your armpits if that works for you. Now, instead of just thinking, okay, I'm gonna crank myself up, breathe, inhale, breathe into your back body and then lift yourself up and draw your shoulders back. And we're gonna use restraint here. It's actually hard for me not to go deeper into this than this, but this is what we're gonna do. Then you're gonna breathe into your back lungs, exhale, pull your belly back. Breathe into your back lungs, exhale, bring your belly back. And why we're doing it this way and we're sort of restricting ourselves is so we can really imprint the breath without a bunch of extra things happening. And I actually I can find a cool kind of deep hip flexor stretch here just by being here. And then lower down. And we'll just do the same thing second side. So this is more when we, pressing our hand into the Hollywood square. You know what I mean, when they do that in Hollywood. It's not a Hollywood square. All right, inhale, breathe into your back body to help you lift, and then exhale. Inhale, use your breath, and exhale, belly back. Do this a couple more times, and just let your breath lead the way. Yeah, good. And we don't even really have to try, we're breathing extra, but the idea is that the breath is already there. It's always happening. It's an innate gift. And so we don't have to kind of push into that. It's already happening. It's just we're paying more attention, maybe make it a little more full. And then release that. Okay. Then from here, we're going to have right foot forward, left knee down. And we're going to work more into the legs and not as much into the torso. So I would say, Michael, for this one, get the blue blocks since you're taller. And we're going to squeeze from ankles all the way into the hips towards one another and bend in. And the upper body, where hands are on the blocks here to support us, so we don't have to do as much. And just focus on, we're just kind of breaking things down, basically. Focusing on the bend into the front knee. And I'll show you here with, it's not that you just, I'm on the other side. Okay. It's not, you can't go deep into this position. It's that this is me activating, like working the upper thigh back. And this is me doing that by kind of giving up. into the right. And so it's not that you can't go deep, it's just when does your lower back say, oh, forget it, right? And when that happens, you've gone a little too far, right? Good. And then switch sides. Left foot forward, right foot back. Same thing, we're just practicing in these types of poses when we're in these deep sort of Anjaneyasana, Hanumanasana kind of things. It really does help to repeat, okay? So you hug in, ankles through hips. You feel free to bend in as much as you want. Just think front of hip bones lift, breathing into your backs of your lungs and just keeping the support of your back on board. And when the back upper thigh comes too far forward, that's the problem with it, is the low back just goes good night, right? And so finding that sweet spot in the middle. And then undo that. Now we're gonna kind of combine this together, and I'm gonna show you here, and you go to where you need to go for this to be work for you, and I'm gonna show you backwards. Well, maybe we'll just do left foot first. So you'll have your hands on the block, same thing, fingertips, but now we're gonna combine it together. So inhale. And now use my hand, and then if you can keep all that and rise and play it back and forth, and just think of the as you go in, left foot forward, right knee down, exhaling, bending into the front knee, inhale, breathe into the backs of your lungs to help keep you buoyant. So now we're kind of getting into the deep choppy seas. The sails are, need to work strong to keep you afloat. I know nothing about boating. Draw your shoulders back. So that was wrong. Don't worry. Good. That's it. And then release and switch sides. That was the most calm. This is called Anjaneyasana. The most calm Anjaneyasana I've ever seen. Sometimes it gets like so zesty, you're just kind of like, oh God, everybody's okay. And you guys are really conscious. So hug it in. Inhale, press down with your fingers, breathe into your back ribs, and then exhale, come on in, right? You're free to come where you can come. You just want to be able to get that uplift. You can flip over the blocks if you're deeper in, flip over the blocks, that's great. Again, you just want to feel the support and the lift in the upper body. Gorgeous. That's it. 2 more breaths here. Anjaneyasana. And then exhale. Release that and come on out. Really nice, you guys. Great. And then we'll come on to our backs. And this time, this is kind of the same pose that you were just in on your back, right? Or the same kind of shape, okay? Similar. But now we're using it in a little different. So you draw your knee to your chest, and as you draw your right knee towards your chest, think of lengthening from the bottom tip of your right shoulder blade down to the top of the sacrum. So you have this like lengthening along the right side of your spine. And then switch. Now you're going to hold from the top or the bottom tip of your left shoulder blade down to straight line down to this top of the sacrum. You'll hopefully feel that length occurring along the left side of the spine. And then you're going to lift both feet up off the floor, knees about hip distance apart. Your hands are on your knees. And then we're going to do some circles. And instead of using your leg muscles, really use your hands to guide your bones. And I'm just making circles in the outward direction. And so we didn't do a lot in the lateral plane today. So I'm just kind of offering this in, and you may notice just after all that play we did in the front of the hips, oh, this isn't, sometimes I do this or similar things and it feels a little more, tight. And then you're gonna take your hands to the backs of your thighs, knees bent, and press your thighs into your hands. And here, ideally, we have a little space between the low back and the floor. If you need to, you could press your low back into the floor. And then you can think of that, the xiphoid process, right where the two ribs meet in front, and think of tucking them underneath the bottom of the heart. You may feel just a slight expansion happening in the back body. And then feet onto the floor. And just here, pause for a moment. And just tune into your breath. Even taking your breath for, taking us on this journey today and really supporting us through the asana. And you guys were really skilled in having the breath participate. And it's a really tricky line to sort of invoke the breath to help. And then there's willing the breath into doing what we want. And we want, choice number one. But that in itself is a skill. Like in yoga, the will is good. It's a very, it gets us in the world, but it can also kind of mess with things. And so we learn how to have nuance within the will, right? It's the same with the breath. Just think of people in their 20s with the decisions that they make and how they, really plow through. And you're like, what are you doing? That's sort of the thing I'm talking about with will. No offense to anybody in their 20s. Okay. But just that strong, like, I'm gonna do this. But that's what makes, they gotta do that. It's part of the life. So anyway, here, let's take the bolster to the backs of the knees. And if you want, Shiho, you could take a blanket. You could just have your heel knees bent, do regular Shavasana, whatever you got going on. But since we have these beautiful bolsters here, we're gonna use them underneath the backs of the knees. Michael, are you in your 20s? You're in your 30s, right? Okay. Just checking. I didn't want to act like you weren't here. And then breathe into your backs of your lungs, just really gentle, or I would say even just an invitation to notice the breath coming in the backs of the lungs. And it's not as natural because your back's on the floor, but just kind of acknowledge that, I guess is a good way to say that. And what I think of with the back of the lungs is we're able to kind of step back a little bit out of whatever it is that we are dealing with and soften. I would say sort of the secrets, our inner secrets are sort of held in the back of the heart. You can think of that here with the breath sort of coaxing these secrets of our heart.
Next, inhale, take a big breath in. And exhale. And then bend your knees, put your feet on, well, I guess bend your knees a little bit, take the bolster out or place your feet on the bolster and roll to your right side, if it works. And then turn on your right side and press up to a seat. And I'm just sitting on my bolster. If you wanna sit. And then taking your hands into your heart center. And just notice the brief stuff I did with you. I just feel more of a full body breath. Have that more full body breath. We're really just able to come from a different place in our mind and our energy, through our speech, into the world as we come from that more softer place, or the offerings we make are going to be, coming from a very loving place or working towards that. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Namaste. Thank you. No, Mondays.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll still be doing Mondays online.
That's on.
Yeah. I'm still doing Mondays online. Oh, you didn't know that? Oh.
Well, that's just okay.
Well, yeah, because I think bye, Shiho. I think we did that. It was like that for like a hot minute. And then